Welcome to Mori episode 5. I'm here with Dustin and Koma and Qball, myself. Say hi.
Hi guys.
Hi, how's it going?
Hello.
So, we're talking about, mostly blood today with the moderator of Deathwish. So, why don't you go introduce yourself and tell about the project you worked on for like the past 11 years now?
Yeah, on and off. It was back in 2010, and they had just switched Macs from using PowerPC to Intel, which means you could now run DOS programs on a Macintosh, which is the computer I had. So that's
low power.
Yeah. So that's why there's a long absence, and then I decided, I have access to DOS again. Maybe I'll play around in this. So, I made an episode just thinking my friend would play it, because at the time there weren't any ports or anything.
Yeah, it was just a standard.
Yeah, you still had to play in DOS or good old games.
Right.
And then I kept working on it and just ballooned into something else.
Yeah. And later on, you got onto Fresh Supply. How did that go?
It was fine. I didn't really have to fix that much. As soon as Fresh Supply came out, I found out what worked and didn't work. And then I hopped into the Night Dive Discord channel, and we worked out the kinks. Because a lot of the things because since mine works with vanilla, anything in their remaster that broke when playing my expansion meant that something was wrong in the conversion.
Yeah. And you must have had a lot of problems in DOSBox if you had to work with that, but
it wasn't that bad. A lot of people were doing things that were actual mods where they were adding artwork and music and stuff, and I didn't really want to deal with any of that. I wasn't thinking of it as being future proofed at that point. I just didn't feel like messing with it. So
yeah, you just wanted to get them all out, and that's about it for that.
Yeah, because like I said, I had a friend who introduced me to Blood, when it came out in 98 or 97, and
that long.
And I was like, "Hey, man, I made some levels," and he thought it was good, so I made some more, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. I mean, I saw that you made in 1999 a short one, I thought.
I think when I was home from college, I made one. I made some other ones when I was younger, and then there was a huge gap where I entered the graphic design program in college, and you had to have a Macintosh at that point to do it, because Adobe was putting out all their stuff like Mac forward. Now it doesn't matter, but back then you were supposed to have a Mac to do design work.
Yeah. Okay. I also saw that the secret level in the later levels was screwed over by Atari. Like, how does that work?
What was that? Sorry, I didn't hear.
I thought there was a secret level in like episode 3 or 4 that was like screwed over by Atari that would put you back at the end credits or something like that. It wouldn't transition over to something new.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't know what I was doing back when I first started.
Okay.
I didn't know anything worked. Like when I made the newer stuff when I was older, I actually picked apart the retail levels to see how things worked. But in the old ones, like the secret counters don't work, all that stuff, I was just sort of building them like I would build a Duke Nukem level.
Yeah. I mean, I heard that from the Civi video that you made on your mod. There were all kinds of problems with Atari, and then with Refresh Supply, and I didn't want to update that, all that kind of stuff. But we have enough other ports to lab work, so that wasn't too bad to do that. But over the years, you updated a lot of it, and a lot was inspired by movies like The Thing or Alien or other things.
Yeah.
Did you came up while you were making it, or just had already an idea like I'm
Well,
gonna put it?
the original game obviously referenced a lot of movies and stuff.
Yeah, a lot of horror movies, a
Um,
lot of campy
so I
horror
thought
movies.
I'd do the same thing. And some of the movies I like just happened to be sci-fi horror, and there weren't any in the original levels because it didn't match up with the timeline. But I was doing
Yeah.
expansion, so I didn't care. So I did more recent stuff.
Okay. And you made it a lot bigger than the original ever was. I mean, the original had its also strong points, but your version just got more elaborate and elaborate and elaborate the more you experimented on it, like with each update. Huge castles or huge alternate dimensions or all kinds of things, or teleportation or whatnot. It's also really weird thing. And now you're working on your last episode, like an after episode or something like that. It's like a joke chapter or something, or what is it?
No, it's just adding on to the end. I already have some of it built. I have maybe a third of it is built already. And then I started going back and updating the older stuff, and I'm almost caught up. But it takes a while.
Yeah.
It's just a hobby. I don't like work on it 8 hours a day. So.
No. It would take that long, but I mean, it's a lot of work to get it all up and to get ideas and whatnot. I mean,
Yeah.
still kind of thing. And you two, have you ever played Blood or heard about it?
I personally have heard about it because like I like games such as Doom, the original ones, the first, the second, the Duke Nukem, and also many WoD mods for Doom or similar games that are heavily based on blood. Like there is this game called Grezzo 2 or Grezzo 2 in Italian, which is basically blood ripoff filled with a lot of Italian humor from the television.
Okay.
And it's pretty crazy, actually. There are many walkthroughs on YouTube if you want to check it out.
Okay. How's it called? How's the game called?
Grezzo 2.
Okay. Oh, Rental Doom. Okay. I mean, I saw a version of like combined, what was it, Doom and Blood in one. Like you could change from different characters and just go through each section. It was also a weird, interesting version. I mean, he played lots of mods. I played a mod like Bloodlines, Bloody Pulp Fiction, all the bigger ones. Like, and some of them, like the longer you go back, the more broken they get, because a lot of them just don't. You need a specific port to let it work, or else it just won't work on the other port. And even on the port that's supposed to work, it just crashes, or just you can't get it to work, or just something broke in it, or the music won't work, or other things. And like, yeah, it's a bit of a bummer to not play any of those. Probably won't be that good, but hey, I mean, some new have come out since Civi's his videos, like with like a few recent ones, like also these huge elaborate elaborate hallways or temples or whatnot you can add onto it. So yeah, and I played Blood for like 2-3 years now. Also have a case for it now, like originally bought for like $60, which is a bit expensive for that, but hey, I got it at least. And then yeah.
Well, the original game is easy to get into. Like it's on sale on Steam right now, if I am not mistaken.
Yeah, it's really easy to get. I mean, you get it on Steam, or you can get it from archive.org or ModDB, like all those mods are. And just play it free and just get the original one and just get it in there. Problem is the source code is been lost since '79, so you have to literally build it from the ground up to get even anything. And recently was a version was found from '69, which was it's nothing special. It's just a bit of history on like how they fix things or how they communicate with each other to get the thing going. So that was kind of interesting, but I wonder where it still has the source code. I mean, would it be one of the studios or just somebody? Just under the bed, under dust or something?
I don't know. I wouldn't hold your breath on getting your hands on the
No,
source code.
no. Qball, what do you know about it?
Well, I definitely in games, I play a lot of them, but actually, I only got a computer in like, let me say, 2001. So a lot of those games were a little before my time, but now I see, like that style of FPS is coming back. Like people are actually trying to make new 2.5D games, So
Yeah.
to kind of get into them when I didn't used to before. So like, what about I know that those engines had certain limitations, like and sometimes the levels wouldn't make sense in a real 3D space. How is it working with that style of engine, Dustin?
It's interesting because it's not real 3D. It's sort of faking the look of 3D, but every wall you make has an infinite height to it. So to make room over room, you'd have to actually cross sectors over each other and make sure that a person can't see into both areas at the same time, where it causes some visual bug. Or you have to put a specific texture on the floor and then on the ceiling of the corresponding area. And then you can sort of look through it like there's a camera on the other side. But there's no real 3D in those games. So if you want to make a bridge and be able to go under it, like you just can't do stuff like that. It's like...
That is interesting. So you ever find yourself wanting to make something and you're not able to make it?
I don't know. There's usually a way around it. You have to just be creative. And it's a good thing in some ways. You can do things with that you can't do necessarily with 3D. So if I can overlap two different spaces, as long as you can't see them, you can have geometry that can't actually exist. You can have rooms that fold into each other.
Right. I heard of that. So I always thought that was so interesting. It's like, well, this engine has like a lot of limitations with making things actually 3D, but then it could make some things that can't even exist. Like it would be hard to do that in a true 3D engine, or you'd have to use other tricks around it. Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah. So a lot of times I would lean into that because it's something you couldn't get out of a 3D game that people might not be used to.
And did you ever make any custom assets for your mod? Like custom sprites or any other sort of thing on textures?
I didn't do anything custom. So this is why the expansion works in every port, because it doesn't use anything that isn't in the retail game.
You don't use from Blood 2 or some other expansions.
No, nothing. I mean, it might be hard to tell because I really dug into the different textures and colors and stuff, but it doesn't use anything that's not in the original game.
Yeah. Except for like the what is it? The dev games, for instance, like Chernobog is calling nice one and other lines like that. That was really low.
Those are from the deathmatch mode, which is called Blood.
That's one. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a whole renaissance of like new FPS games that came out, like Dusk or a Medieval or yeah, any of those. I mean, Dusk is probably my favorite of them all. It's like the first one that's already came out. Then you have Gloomwood, then you have all sorts of things. I mean, the closest to all of it is probably to Blood is probably Dusk in terms of atmosphere, creatures, you name it. Only it's way more experimental and way more out there and gets more experimental the more you go into it. How many have you played of those, or just had no time to do any?
I am very bad at at that. Like in the last year, I played Doom for the first time, the original. I never
Really?
played it before. I played Doom 2 like a long time ago. My buddy brought over like a bunch of floppy disks, and Doom was on it. Yet or Doom 2, and I played Quake like maybe last year when the remaster came out. Played Quake for the first time. But after Blood, I think I played Unreal was the next game, and then Half-Life after that. And then I didn't play too many when I was in college, so I had a big gap. But yes, the level design is not inspired by Doom at all because I never played it.
No.
Which I thought was it's probably a unique experience. Most people have played Doom before they start making maps.
Yeah. Most started with that like in 94 or 5 that started in. But yeah, Unreal. I mean, Unreal is also this whole singular long story you just go through all kinds of worlds, all kinds of things. It's like the next gen thing you could think of, like the most advanced thing you could think of at the time. I mean, Blood got so unappreciated because it came right after not Duke, what was it again? After Quake, which was 3D or like early 3D. And so everybody forgot about it, and obviously the difficulties on the higher levels. So yeah, most forgot about it, and even now they won't put it on conventions on computers for people to play, so nobody sees it on there, and most people just know it from YouTube nowadays, or like from the different games that are out now. So yeah, it's a bit of a buggy relationship. I mean, you can say that your mod is like the real Blood to instance or the real
I've heard
game
people say that, yeah.
like like what?
Well, the original game is so unfriendly to new players.
Obviously
the game assumes you have first person shooter skill like right off the bat. It's not easing you into it. I think the first episode might be the hardest one, honestly.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you really got to get used to it, the speed, the enemies, how quick you can die, how quick you can survive, how you mean for that kind of game you need all the all the experience with all the other games that came before it. But if you hadn't, then you're kind of screwed, especially on the higher difficulties. Like the last two difficulties are are quite impossible if you don't know anything about it. But most can start out on the first two. They're like the easiest ones. I mean, even I could do it in like half a year or something. So that was not too bad, or like sooner or something like that. But yeah, it's a really difficult thing to do. I mean, for some reason, for like games like what was it again? Like an older game. Never mind.
Wolfenstein, maybe.
Well, the fifth difficulty you're not even supposed to run by yourself. In the booklet, which no one has because no one has booklets anymore with the physical game, it says it's meant for multiplayer where you have infinite respawns. So they could make it as hard as they wanted, and it didn't matter. But
Yeah,
if you came from Doom on like the 4th difficulty and tried it in Blood, you'd get ripped apart trying to play the same way. Just because
it goes from real easy to real hard, real fast. There's not really any fine tuning between all the two, which is in all the other games is like way more like that. There's way more like in Quake is like real easy, hard, harder, extreme, and so forth. But it's just going up and down. And I never understood why Chernobyl was so easy and the rest was all way more difficult, except the Mother Spider, I guess. But the others were way more higher in hit points than for Chernobyl. Just why is he so low?
They might have been running out of time. It was probably near the end of development. The end of episode 4 seems rushed, level design wise.
Yeah, so it's a bit anti, I guess.
They might have just been running up. Ran out of testing time. It's a possibility.
Yeah. I mean,
no, I just saying that I don't blame you not playing the first Doom. I mean, the first FPS that I played was Turok Dinosaur Hunter. And it was mind blowing at the time. Yeah. I don't know what people. I think some people still like it, But on with the difficulty thing, as hard as it is, I'm sure there's somebody that's beaten it with like a Dance Revolution pattern, a Guitar Hero controller or something. I'll need to look up that because I was looking at some of it and it was just looking crazy, I mean, like you start and you're dead at once.
Yeah.
Well, there is one thing that I agree on with you guys, that many of those games were really, really hard back then, harder than today's games. Don't you agree? Especially the multiplayer aspect, the deathmatch, like you were put against people that were really crazy good at those games, like Unreal Tournament or any or those games are really hard and not easy to get into nowadays for kids, I guess.
Was anybody even playing with a controller back then? Because I know that is something that people do now, but some of the stuff that I seen in these old games, I can't imagine anybody doing it with a controller. You would have to have like 3 hands or something.
I didn't even play Blood with a mouse and keyboard when I first did it. It was just the keyboard. I didn't use the mouse until like way later. Until I started playing the 3D games where you had to have it, like Unreal. But in
the first game.
But like before 3D, you didn't really need to look up and down that much. It just wasn't designed that way.
Yeah.
Right. So from what I understand, like as long as you were facing in the direction, up and down didn't really count.
Yeah, not so much.
So there's no build engine game that takes that into account. The actual verticality of an enemy on the screen in front of you.
There are like Duke had jetpack, so you could use vertical space, but it wasn't required. Like all switches you had to hit had to be at the height you were facing were you not using a mouse. You know what I mean? So that you could still hit them without using it. Things like that.
Okay, so it's something like dual analog, but just with the WASD and the arrow keys, right?
It's just something. Yeah, it's something you had to keep in mind when you were making maps for some of those older games. You had to keep in mind that there were people playing who weren't going to be looking around in 3D with the mouse. They'd just be using the default view.
one interesting thing is that I think that because of the way how the graphics are different, the build engine using sprites and Quake using totally 3D stuff. In a way, some of the build engine games probably hold up a little better because it was actual like pixel artwork, as opposed to crude at the time 3D models. I don't know if you feel that same way.
Well, that's the same way
even
in animation. Like if you look at an old Disney movie like Sleeping Beauty, it's aged. It doesn't age. Meanwhile, early 3D movies, even early Pixar, doesn't hold up that well, years and years later. And games are the same way in a lot of cases.
I definitely think so. I mean, like I'm a old-time traditional animator, and I definitely agree. And I'm glad it still have, like, I would have never thought that some of these things would be coming back, like 2.5D first-person games. And,
all the people
hand-drawn
who played
animation
those are
games.
old enough to make them now. So.
Yeah, for sure. And have you heard of one called Fortune's Run? I think that is the name.
I haven't played that one.
I think it's still in production, but I think is using the 2.5D graphics, or like using that to mean sprite-based objects in a first-person game. But I think it's more on the immersive sim side. So I guess that is more like System Shock 1. Kind of going along that route, which I thought was interesting. So it's not just quick shooters.
Yeah.
It's like everything old is new again, and before what probably used to take 100 people could be done by like one guy in his room or something.
Well, the barrier for entry on a sprite-based game is a lot lower than full 3D. There's just a lot less work involved.
Q, maybe lower a bit your volume because you're a bit too loud.
That is one of the reasons why many games there are like now made for all the consoles. I don't know, that some games still came out for the Sega Genesis or the original Game Boy, and those are simple games with 2D sprites. And that is because they are essentially easy to program and create art-wise compared to a 3D game. And I guess that is one more reason why you don't see newer games made by freelancer programmers, hobbyists who want to make a new game for the Dreamcast. If a new game for the Dreamcast came out, it's gonna be a 2D game more likely than a 3D one, because it needs so much work and effort and money to make.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say, well, sprites aren't necessarily easier, but total amount of time you have to put in for 3D, it tends to be a lot higher. Just because there's a lot of other things you have to deal with in 3D that you don't when you're working in a 2D space.
I see.
Yeah, and back in the day, those games didn't hold your hand, like Blood or Doom or like other Raven or like early Raven games. They didn't hold your hand. You just had to figure out yourself what to do. Like I remember now, like Shadow Warrior. I find Shadow Warrior way harder than Blood because I tried to play it a couple of times over and over and over, but it didn't get far anywhere. It's just the controls are just way more difficult than Blood. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were taking cues from Unreal and Half-Life after they came out because they were so popular. If you think of both of those, the beginning of Unreal, you're not even fighting anything in the first entire map. You're just
walking
getting used
around
to the controls. Yeah.
And
then Half-Life is the same way. You've got
introduction level and just
15 minutes of just walking around and interacting before you have to do any of that stuff.
Yeah, we can hear you. Q.
Whoa.
Can hear you. There is an interference or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, his internet is kind of shit because there's like rain going outside, and his internet might pop out from time to time. So that's kind of a problem. But oh well. What I have more?
Is it any better now, by the way?
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, it's better.
Okay. Yeah, it's I blame the third world conditions. You know, we are talking on like a vine or something, right?
I mean, with it's also kind of like most studios nowadays just make the same games over and over, like God games or
Yeah, I think the From has been making the same Dark Souls
yeah.
for years and years and years.
And not trying to get any new games. Like I've seen earlier Ravering games, some like games with fantasy, games with horror, or games with time travel. Even the last games was like with time travel with the Soviet Union and other stuff. And then it just got taken over and just was like for 20 years, just the same game over and over and over and over and over. Even if they're like bought by Blizzard now, I don't think they will ever get rid of that. I mean, some people say like, oh no, but you just gotta play a cut game sometimes. But I'm like, yeah, but they're making those things for like 20 years, like every year a new game, like your FIFA games. I'm like, you still want to play some other games than just, the same thing over and over. And of course, there's other studios that make other stuff, but still, I mean,
well,
it's
getting to be like the movies. The people who are funding these things, suddenly a game costs millions of dollars to make, and they don't necessarily want to
change the formula.
Take a chance on something, and when they can make a sequel, I mean, if they make another Elden Ring, they're guaranteed to sell it. You know what I mean? Even without showing a demo or video or anything.
Yeah, like a new Alien movie, for instance.
Yeah, so the movie studios have the same issue where they don't want to invest in something unless they're sure they can get their money back. That's why you keep seeing sequels, or they're remaking old movies because they know there's a built-in audience already. They don't have to take a chance. Back when movies didn't cost so much to produce, you got more variety. And then you've got Blumhouse. Blumhouse will let you make whatever you want for $5 million, and then on the chance that, and they'll get a bunch of stinkers, and then every once in a while they'll get something like Ouija that makes $140 million on a $5 million budget, and that's how they get paid. A24 has been really good.
Recently. I mean, I've seen The Lighthouse, Witch, and so forth and so forth. Those are really like high-end art house movies.
The Lighthouse is what I think a Silent Hill movie should have been.
Yeah. With a little bit of Lovecraft in there, and a little bit of more like 20th century, like 20th century, like 19th century, or like end of that. Yeah, I mean, we make a way better Silent Hill movie than what we have essentially got. I mean, they're campy, and the costumes and the environment is kind of fun, but it's nowhere near the originals, obviously. And they're never gonna make any of that. I mean,
they're not gonna make like it's it's the same problem. Like it's some guy who's nervous about a Silent Hill movie making money, and he wants Pyramid Head in there. And,
just so
James is nowhere in the movie, so it doesn't make sense for this guy to appear. But we need him to show up because
he's popular. Everybody knows.
Yeah, look, just don't think too much about it. Just don't think too closely. And I think half of the budget of the Lighthouse was probably paying the two actors. But the atmosphere was really what what they were able to do, and similar to the well, I mean, you mentioned the growing budgets of games and movies leading to people not being able to take risks. So I think that is why, especially with indie games, what I mean, like you're saying in movies too, uh, indie games making genres of games and new types of games that I could never imagine a AAA developer even trying to do. Like that wouldn't even make it past the first stage, much less, make a game. I mean, looking at some of these weird things, and that have become super popular, FTL and Super Meat Boy and Loop Hero and all these strange things. Like, uh, you know, I mean, I think now is the best time in a way because like all these tools are available to everybody now, and anybody who really wants to could just sit down and do it.
Yeah. I mean, back in the day, you really had to get film equipment and film material to make a movie, so it was way harder for people to make movies. Some made it out of like, I mean, yesterday I saw like Dark Star. That was John Carpenter's first movie, and it was just a student film, literally made with whatever they had. It was also really bizarre, but also really interesting. Like how they get for so little, so much out of it with like the effects that they had back then, or like the knowledge or whatnot. So that's also pretty interesting to have.
The time when they still had to use practical effects. It's good. I don't understand all the digital effects anyway. Like practical effects can't be more expensive if you have to pick between one or the other. Like,
yeah. I mean, you still have a few movies that do that, like Void, for instance. It was like a few years ago.
I think they had practical effects for a remake of The Thing.
Yeah, 2011. Yeah, they had they had
and then they made them do CG after they saw it, something like that.
Yeah. They had an earlier version with practical effects and whatnot, but then they looked at another movie that got scrapped. But it was the same thing with Jurassic Park, for instance. Like if you know the movie Mad God by what was the character designer again? That was a word for Star Troopers, Star Wars, well, whatever. He would have made all the effects for Jurassic Park, like practical effects. But after the new technology was perfected specifically for the movie, they put that in to take everything over. So his whole concept and ideas were completely scrapped. And later on, he made the movie, which is completely made, almost completely made out of special effects, Mad God, which is like his magnum opus for special effects. Everything, all his dreams and ideas came into that thing. It doesn't really have a plot, but it's pretty well good. It's pretty well done. You can watch it on Shudder if you ever want to see it. It's a really, really good recommendation I can give. I mean, it's also, he would really work for like a movie for Blood, for instance, for all the creatures and all the things, if we ever got a movie for that. But I hope we never get a movie like that. I mean, they tried for a few franchises to get a movie out of it. I mean, a lot of franchises for Influx or other movies. They tried to make different movies, but this is all flopped because they can't really make something like that into a movie. The universe is way too different or way too difficult or has way too much fantasy or way too much other stuff to get to CGI or practical effects or whatnot. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think I see a similar thing with with like you're talking about practical versus CG. I think I see something similar with hand-drawn animation versus CG. They talk about the budgets, but I mean, when you look at the budgets of some of these 3D shows, it's like, are you really saving? You're spending like 200 million on Frozen or something like that. And you look at what it could have done hand drawn, and also too, I think a lot of the CG starting to kind of look the same. You know, like I think people ready to see something looking a little different now. You know, which is why I think people kind of going back to practical in some cases. Is there a cut of the practical remake of the thing? Because you said they shot it in
No, it's all
practical, and then
CG now.
the studio.
It's all CGI. There was
There's not even like a. Okay, that's too bad. But they did do some tests. You said they started out doing it.
Yeah. It was all practical effects originally, and then they swapped around with CGI, which was a bad move because it would probably be way more popular than it is now. Most people look on it.
You know what? Especially for like body horror and gross out stuff, I think practical is the best. You know?
Yeah.
I mean,
you really know how to make it well, then.
You ever seen the original Fly? Well, the Fly and Fly 2? Sorry, it's not the original. That actually is a remake.
No.
You mean the one from the 80s?
Right, yeah. So okay. That was with Goldblum, right? So that too is a remake. Isn't there one with Jeff Goldblum?
Yeah, the one with Jeff Goldblum is a remake of The Fly from back when movies were still black and white.
Right. So, but that guy, the effects in that one really hold up. I mean, they're still gross today. Jesus Christ. You know, you ever seen part 2 of that? A lot of people don't like it, but it has some effects in it that you know, like I saw it when I was very young, so I'm still traumatized by it. But if I had seen it older, I would have still been traumatized. You know, there's this fly creature is throwing up in. I don't want to get a show banned from YouTube, but yeah, you know, it's fun for the whole family. You know, depending on the family.
Yeah.
You know, but I think that
yeah, no, remember that.
I just saying that I think that new models are coming out now, like you know, Netflix allowing people to do things that you would never see. You know, now I'm not sure if their budgets are actually lower. Like there was Netflix and Apple TV, I think both of them and Amazon have greenlit like hand-drawn series, you know, and hand-drawn features. Like Netflix did Klaus. I don't know if you saw that one, but that was like a fully hand-drawn feature. You know, so and that is not, imagine that Netflix is making a show. Klaus, Klaus.
Okay, I haven't seen it.
Right, but I mean that is a fully 2D animated show that even Disney can no longer make, that Netflix is doing now. Like that is something that they would have made. You know, I'll paste the trailer in the chat probably.
Yeah. I know the name now again. It was Phil Tippett. Phil Tippett made a lot of Star Wars stuff, Star Trooper, and all those kinds of movies, all practical effects. He only wants to do practical effects. So, yeah, that's like one of the last people that really tries to do anything with it. Like, I don't know, like the Japanese cyberpunk movement, for instance, there's also a lot of practical effects, like Tetsuo and Iron Man, if you ever heard of that, Dustin.
No.
Never.
It's also a really, trip, you could say. It isn't that well acted, but yeah, it has something. It has the kind of energy and the kind of special effects that really draw you into the whole thing. Or like 1964 Pinocchio, or like what I got 2 days ago, Electric Dragon 80,000 volts. It's also really it's an hour-long movie that's basically a man that got us in an accident on an electric pole when he was a child, got electrified, but then has the power to harness the electricity and basically use it to go rampant with it every time, and every time he gets wild, he gets more amped up, and then he gets more loaded. We'd say, and you get a whole battle about it. It's really interesting. You get all the special effects with all the electricity literally drawn onto the film to get out of it, to really boom out of the films, all in black and white. It's a really fun movie. Basically, it doesn't really waste your time. Basically,
Yeah, the CG in movies is sort of a double-edged sword, because if they don't keep trying it, it doesn't get better. But at the same time, you don't necessarily want to be able to spot it.
yeah.
So yeah, computers are really good at taking the background out of a scene or doing buildings. It's just not there yet.
No.
For things that are up close, or faking a human. But it'll get there eventually. But in the meantime, you gotta sit through it.
Yeah.
I see.
Watching things in standard definition still kind of pays off, You wouldn't get to see some of these like did they remember they recreated I think it was Grand Moff Tarkin in one of the new Star Wars?
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
And they couldn't get him quite right, Something was a little off about it. But like you said, they're closing in on it, Soon they'll be able to do whatever they want, And they'll probably own the likenesses of the people that are in the movies. So even without their consent, they could probably remake them,
Well, soon enough, they won't need a 3D artist to do it at all. They'll have a 3D scan of the actor, and then they'll just let the computer AI place the face in the scene and do the voice too. And then someone's going to get sued.
No. That'll be any contract. The guys just sign on. Yeah, I'm glad to be in this movie, And then bam, they're in the first movie, and then they're in all the sequels, but not in person, unpaid.
Well, I think
mark my words. That's good.
James Earl Jones already told the Star Wars people they can use his voice ongoing, even if he's not there to record lines.
Well, you know what? He might be a one-off, But and I think, and I mean, look, he's already made his money, I think, But like, I mean, some up-and-coming guy or person is going to sign away the rights to themselves that they probably wouldn't even be aware of, because they're just so glad to be on a show, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And then when it blows up that nobody knows, like you mentioned, that how this, what was the company that I said it makes a lot of cheap, quote unquote cheap $5 million movies, and then one blows up, they made Ouija.
Yeah.
So something is gonna happen. Some unknown is gonna blow up, and he'll have probably signed his rights away. I don't know. But like you say, it's interesting because it would also mean that smaller productions and smaller groups of people with not a lot of money could do some of this stuff too, which is it's like a double-edged sword.
It's coming for sure. It's only a matter of time before some studio gets an AI to listen to all the songs of some band that a studio likes, and then they let the computer release an AI generated, album, and they take all the money without paying real people to do it. It'll happen for sure.
That is scary.
You know what? I suspect it probably have some of these things out there that we don't know already. Like, I mean, there's bands that we never see who they actually are. Like, they just release their stuff digitally and we never see them in person.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like we know the gorillas are real people, but there might be something like that where we never see them.
Well, they already
maybe
do some things like that in music tracks. Like the computer will automatically put in, like if it's doing a drum track, it'll put in errors here and there, so it sounds less robotic and more like a live recording. So they're already doing stuff like that in music. They just haven't moved on to copying yet that I know of. But
We've-
but all you have to do is add, change, a dial that says, okay, switch up the variants so nobody can sue us for copying Led Zeppelin or whatever.
Yeah, that'll be set in. Just turn off. Just disable, change enough so that is distinct enough. That will be set. That will be the default. It'll come with that.
Yeah, it'll be that. It'll be. I mean, it's not just music. An AI at some point is going to be able to write a novel after you feed it someone else's work, enough of it.
Well, you are sort of able to do it already.
Yeah,
more or less.
So, like, you can probably go to an AI and say, "Hey, write a story, blah blah blah, in the style of Stephen King or whatever," and it can do a reasonable job of it.
Or anything, or just have a lot of weird lines. I mean, it's in the early stage for now, but yeah, in 10, 20 years.
I mean, what's cheaper? A publisher, instead of paying an author a huge cut, all you do is pay some editor to take out the robotic sounding stuff.
Yeah,
you make way more money doing that.
Yeah.
And then nobody gets movie rights or anything. You don't have to deal with the author at all.
Yeah.
So it'll be a minefield.
Yeah. By the way,
I think a lot of times they already have ghostwriters that they sign away everything. They just, I could no longer sue. This is your work, and they just have to kind of go with it. So like it's already being done. In fact, for the time being, it might be cheaper to hire a ghostwriter that signs over all the rights before they even begin the work. But like you say, the AI is getting there. Hey, that might be useful to help finish some unfinished works. If nothing else, we feed it some on. We could feed it. Yeah, imagine we feed it Game of Thrones and get an ending.
Yeah. I mean, if you have to finish everything by a computer or just automatic, it's probably gonna look like. I don't even want to know what it's gonna look like.
I mean, if you want to know how a computer is going to finish a game, you can look at procedurally generated level design.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I've heard about it and I've seen it in a couple of things, but I mean, literally making a second game, literally automatic. Literally, what the computer is being fed, what it knows, and just make the whole thing. I mean, I know the programs can literally just learn a game and just how to get the whole thing, the high score in a game, or like how to get a secret that nobody else could get because the game dev put a secret in so high, so difficult to get. Like you need to get the max score out of something that's impossible for anybody to do, but a computer can do it. But if you made a game with like a franchise, like a second game of a franchise, and just completely automatic, I mean, I don't even want to know what that's gonna look like. I mean, now it would just look really wonky or something, and nothing.
Well, the programmers are already using AI while they're writing code. It can guess how to close up what they're working on in a segment.
I'm pretty sure Ubisoft using some kind of make the next Assassin's Creed game AI,
I mean, it kind of is already.
I know what I think might be a better thing, and I think some people already do this. Like, there's handmade parts of games, and the procedural generation uses some of those handmade parts together. So it's not a total. You know what I mean? It using some of the human pre-made parts to make parts of the level then, or randomly putting them together somehow. But at least it has some amount of like the human craft in it. No, I sure procedural. Well, I know for sure like they use it for like incidental objects like grass and rocks and stuff, where the game is like an open world game where it would just be impossible for a human to go and place all this stuff, to go and place every individual rock and grass and stuff. So I mean, like it definitely helps. There are games that feel handmade, but are sure that they still use a lot of procedural generation to place some of the stuff. You know, some of the more incidental stuff, I should say. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, Dustin, have you ever met or like talked to any of the devs of Blood or any of the studios?
Not the original, no. I talked with Night Dive a bit when we were working out some of the problems, but that's it.
Okay. And by the way, a small thing like Key 7, is that a reference to anything or just some random idea you got?
That's something that was in the original game that wasn't used.
Oh, okay.
And I found it. So because
there's a random asset
well,
that it just
when you're placing stuff in the levels, you have to go through some giant list of things, and there's stuff in the list that doesn't show up in the retail game, and you're like, oh, what is this? And some of it works, and that's one of the things that works.
Just a bit of exploring, and you get somebody with, how can you reuse that? And bingo, you can create a new game. Well, almost with no new voice lines. I mean, it would be great if the voice actor for it worked with you to get the rest of the lines that you wanted, and just reuse these old lines from the original game. But that's that's impossible now.
So you worked with Night Dive Studios before?
No, I was just on their Discord when they were having some issues.
Okay.
Well,
I see that they're the guys involved in okay, but they are the guys that are making the System Shock games now. But I think that are they making a new one?
I don't know. I talked with them a bit on the Blood stuff to try and figure out why some things were and were not working. And after that, that was it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It's cool that they're actually able to talk to. I just saying, I think it's cool that they're able to actually talk to somebody, the people that would know. You know, I mean, imagine how would that work in 1998? You know, like
I don't know.
Sometimes, yeah, you know, you had to send them maybe you could have sent them an email, but I mean, now, like sometimes I talk to like ex-Disney animators and ask them stuff, you know, and how it was to draw this. You know, it's just amazing that is even possible now. You know, you could kind of nag anybody, you know, and actually get an answer, as opposed to the past where, I mean, when I was a kid, I couldn't even imagine that being possible. You know.
Yeah, you'd have to have emailed back then or done like AOL chat or something.
Oh man, sure, and that didn't even have none of that stuff. You know, we would have had to send a letter probably. You know.
By the way, I know you didn't want to talk about anime because you didn't know anything, but what have you seen?
What have I seen? I've not seen much. I've seen Dragon Ball Z. Yeah, like I've seen a bunch of movies. But nothing obscure. So
yeah, no, I didn't think you would have, but
like I've seen like Ninja Scroll and like some of that stuff, but
that is nice.
And
well, that is like one of the best, you know. That is like laying the groundwork, and I mean,
best,
you know, a lot of this stuff. Yeah, I mean, it influenced like so much, you know. I don't feel it could be understated, you know, how much this guy influenced stuff, because like even if a lot of people didn't see it at the time, they definitely saw the stuff that it inspired, you know. Yeah, I mean, without Ninja Scroll, would there be a Naruto? I don't know. Maybe not. What is?
Yeah.
What else have you seen then? If you've seen these movies, you've seen yeah.
Man, it'd all be old stuff.
Yeah, that's the best stuff, you know. Ghost in the Shell. A lot of people saw that one at least.
I've seen Ghost in the Shell. I've seen 2 seasons of the TV series and a couple of the movies.
Okay, well,
Okay.
I mean, it's that first movie especially, you know, there definitely wouldn't be a Matrix without Ghost in the Shell. And
No,
I mean, you know, Matrix touch everything. You know, like
it was an
supposedly,
inspiration for it.
well, the legend goes, I don't know if it's true. The urban legend goes that these guys went to the producers or whoever and showed them, you know, Ghost in the Shell and said, look, we want to do this for real. And that was one of the things that that helped them get the funding, you know. Again, I don't know if it's true, but I mean, it's a good story. I could kind of see it happening, you know, because at the time in Hollywood, you wasn't seeing anything like that, you know, like cyberpunk and
When I was younger, I mean, that stuff just wasn't on TV. Like I happened to see Akira when I was younger, like, but it was by chance. It was like on the Sci-Fi Channel. It wasn't something they'd show alongside cartoons and things like that. So, like when Dragon Ball came on TV, I'd never seen anything like it. It's like the first thing I ever saw. Because there wasn't any exposure.
Stuff
when I was younger.
Because like basically whatever the TV channel happened to get, we saw, you know, and so like I didn't even know that there was a thing called anime, but they used to show a few of them, you know. So like, there was one, I think you know it, as well, you know everything, Rurouni Kenshin, you know, but we get here Samurai X, because that was like some Sony tried to dub it and I don't think it was successful, so they were just like, look, let's just sell this to any third world country that would take it for whatever price we could get, and that is how we managed to get it, you know. So like you know, so I mean, seeing Akira on cable or sci-fi or whatever, a lot of people here, that is how they saw these things first, you know. And we didn't know that it would be such an influential thing later on, you know, but it definitely was.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't, you know, I wasn't even thinking of it as, you know, part of an entire genre. I just thought it was maybe a one-off. I didn't know there were tons of movies like that because they didn't show them.
Yeah, we here too, you know, like imagine before the internet, like if wherever year you get internet, Trinidad was probably like 5 years behind, so we get it like, or 10 years, you know, so we get it 10 years after that, you know. So it was only probably relatively, I don't know, maybe in the mid 2000s you could say that internet started to become a thing in a lot of the people homes in Trinidad, because before that it was internet cafes only. And you know, they had their one byte per decade connection that they had, that everybody was sharing in the internet, you know, in the cafe. And so that was literally the flow of information, you know. That is how limited it was here.
Yeah, definitely, because like not many people were accustomed to use a computer back then, and well, it was just the beginning of the digital era.
Yeah. I think Koma have some of the experiences like me, you know. Maybe not as third world as me, but definitely like, I mean, where are you from? Is Italy, right?
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So I could imagine there being, you know, like America was where it was happening, you know, and everywhere else was where we had to wait for it to happen. You know, I mean, I got the first computer I got was in 2001. So, you know, I had a huge backlog. One good thing though was that whenever you come into computers, you have like a huge backlog of stuff that you could get into, you know. And I think that is kind of a good thing with the modern indie games, because the requirements so low in comparison to some of the AAA stuff. Like anybody could have like a huge library of stuff that they could play, you know.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, all these new stroke games, Dusk, that probably running on a phone by now, probably. Almost.
Yeah, I think
But
we
yeah,
first got
that's
internet in 1995 is when I first had it. And
I know.
it wasn't fast either till I got to college.
Yeah.
Yeah, what
Uh,
I don't even know that.
was that limited?
it was like dial-up connection. Like
Yeah,
you had
yeah.
to
Yeah,
either
yeah,
use the internet or being able to make phone calls.
No,
Yeah,
if
had
somebody
that
picked up the phone
early.
at your house, it would kick you off the internet.
All right.
Yeah, I
And
still
it
had
was
like
expensive, basically. It was also really
Yeah,
expensive.
like-
The more you stayed online, the more you paid, basically.
yeah. But by the way, Dustin, going off topic, have you heard about the manhwa priest that was like inspired by blood?
I've heard of it. I haven't read it. I think I've seen some pictures of it, but I haven't read it.
Like the first 5 volumes, is just based. Like the first 5 volumes are like about all the items that he uses, his whole character, his whole thing. Art is also pretty well done. Like later on, it gets its own thing. Priest, manhwa priest.
It's 16 volumes, apparently.
Yeah. It was unfortunately never finished, but I just thought about it. I'm like, oh yeah, that was also completely inspired by Blood. And he made a series about it. Or well, it was inspired and then it got its own story later on and then just spiraled into its own thing. But it's also pretty good. I mean, it's also pretty good art and pretty good working with the whole atmosphere and the whole game. I was also a big fan of that, like in the early 2000s when he started that. But then later on, like Tokyo Pop, his original publisher, screwed him over, stole the IP, and that's where the series apparently ended. And then he gone off to America to go on motors, just to go around cafes and just drink himself. So yeah. That was not the best. Well, he still lives and he makes one last work. He's not gonna finish Priest, so that's kind of a bummer. But hey,
yeah, I've kind of taken to reading these instead of watching the shows.
And maybe you should give it a try. I mean, inspired by it anyway, so why not? Still, it's not finished, but hey, you can get something out of it. Anyway. But it's a bit rare to get the actual volumes. I mean, you're probably better off in German or any other language, or scans online, but they're not that great because who's even thinking about it series? So, yeah.
Oh well.
But yeah, on the internet, I mean, I still had a phone line back in the day, like that. I had to get it that way, like in 2003, 4 or something, and then right after we just got a modem and then years after that Wi-Fi and just went on like that. But I can remember that the internet was pretty slow back in the day, especially when I wanted to play flash games or whatever I had going on at the time.
Yeah, we actually had to write down the amount of time that we were on, because there was, I think it was like it had 20 hours and it would be like, I don't know, $10 a megabyte or something if you went over. It was crazy, dark times,
Oh yeah.
We never had
Vietnam. Yeah, thank God, It's like I get flashbacks from it,
I think we were only limited by how long you could stay on because you were tying up the phone line. So you couldn't stay on that long anyway because people wanted to use the phone. But we never got charged by data amount or time or anything.
Them calls wasn't important anyway, man. They get call back if it's really that important,
Yeah,
And I remember, being mad at people calling me because they take me off, It's like, why the hell you calling me? I don't want to talk with you anyway. I know I had to reset my file download over here, What gives? Yes. Thank God that is no longer the case.
No. And music downloading got really popular in like in the early 2000s, like with some sites, like what was it called again? Well, you know what I mean, like those really low sounding music clips that you just had to download to get any music going on, and then that got taken down and got back up, and etc. 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 It was really easy back in the day.
What a great time to
Yeah,
live.
that was that
Torture.
was where the anime came from, back then, and the movies and everything, not this Netflix thing, In fact, we might need to go back to that. We had Kazan LimeWire was popular here. I think those were
LimeWire,
the two of those that was popular at the time. That
there was Napster, and then Kazaa, and then LimeWire replaced those two.
Yeah, this song is supposed to be a .exe, right? That's normal.
Yeah. I mean, there's still some sites. There's still some sites I want to go back to that I can't visit now anymore because they were scrapped completely because of copyright. So they didn't want to get their sites copied by somebody else, by some fan. So yeah, that's the only thing I want to do. I don't really want to live in that moment anymore. Like that the internet was like that. I mean, it'd be nice and nostalgic, but beyond that, it's just a few sites that I want to do. I mean, nowadays you can just stream music on, well, anything really, Spotify, YouTube, whatnot. So it's like the internet is like on its top basically, but it's kind of decline with all the cookies that pop up or the pop-ups or the ads or whatnot. So and page becomes inaccessible almost. You have to click everything away just to get a page going, even just normal pages that you go through. So that's really
early internet was funny because they didn't have any laws for any of that stuff yet. You could just do whatever.
Far West.
Yeah.
It was like the 90s sites.
People are like, downloading songs, trying to sell drugs, like everything on the internet when it first came out, and the government was like taking too long to catch up.
Yeah.
And
then came the dark.
Our government here is still taking. No, I'm just saying that our government is still taking long to catch up. Like I show half of electronic stuff is inadmissible in court here. Just because of how ancient stuff is. So I doubt. Yeah, people sell DVDs and stuff openly on the streets here. So. But that's just what I suppose is one of the benefits of the third world. There's not many of them, but I don't think the law really cares too much about some of the stuff that people is doing here with online piracy and stuff. But I hear some people in countries, they get letters from the government or they letters from the ISP or something like that.
I mean, what was I gonna say again? I mean, yeah, with piracy, I mean, like with anime, it was also really difficult back in the day to do it. I mean, in the 90s, you just had to need to have VHS or film or whatnot to watch it. Then in the early 2000s, all the pirate sites came up, and then you just watch everything. And nowadays, they catch up with those and try to hunt them down, get them down, a new one gets up, and it just goes on and on and on and on. That's like an impossible thing to get completely down. They really try to get up, but it's almost impossible nowadays to do that. I mean, we have like Kiss Anime that's gone completely. that got caught in Russia, and then we have now 9 anime. But how long is that gonna take, and how long is that gonna be user friendly? Then just put up some blockage just to guess which image is the right image, like you see on the many sites, like pick five photos that are buses or like that are ducks or anything like that, and just go on and on and on, and it just gets more difficult and difficult and difficult. But yeah,
I mean, like that is a problem, but you know, in some places, like here, for example, in Trinidad, sometimes for some things, it's literally impossible to get anything legally here. You know, just because the region is not supported, or because we are close to South. I just saying that because we're close to South America, sometimes the official sites have the Spanish dubs and the Spanish subs only. So you know, it's like what the hell, you know, we speak in English here, you know. But yeah, like sometimes even the subs and dubs are separated by region, you know, and it's like who could have, what would be the harm in enabling all the different subs and dubs in all the regions, you know? Sometimes the dub itself is copyrighted to a region or something like that. So we don't even have it, you know? Yeah, sorry, what is that? Koma?
Yeah, the audio, the dub is also on copyright, because that is the reason why on many games, a few examples are some JRPGs are English dubbed instead of having the Japanese audio, or for the intro songs actually, more than the game itself, because for older games those didn't have full voiced dialogues, but for things such an animated opening, I don't know, the first Lunar game for the Saturn or the PlayStation, it had an English song instead of the Japanese one, because also for copyright reasons, and there are many examples like this out there. But don't quote me on that, because I think that if you pay more, maybe you are able to have also the Japanese song being like.
But I mean, you know, all this is like behind the scenes stuff that like negatively affects the consumer. You know, like most people don't care about this, but. I mean, I think it's interesting, you know, but to the average person here, they're just thinking, look, I could no longer get the thing that I'm paying for. Let me just go and get it online, you know? And I mean, are they wrong for doing that? If we literally can't get it, you know, like I don't.
That's what happened with cable.
Sorry.
And then they came out with all the streaming services, and then people started signing up for those. And now that's turning into cable. Everybody wants their piece of the pie. Now there's too many streaming services.
Yeah, it's too much, because you need to spend like, I don't know, more than 10 subscriptions to multiple.
Yeah, it's just going to go back to pirating again.
Yeah, because it's not convenient.
History subscribe to any of them.
Yeah, the only thing is that now you can watch it when you want. But I mean, like, it's like cable, but only it's shittier in a way, because now everybody have an app, you know, and some of them don't work in all regions, you know, and then sometimes they don't want you signing in on so many devices. I saw something like that with Netflix, like every device had a phone, so like people were sharing passwords. Surprise, I know, and they said something like I think they took it back though when they saw the backlash, but basically, if I signed in by your house on your Fire Stick or whatever, that device would have to come to my house every 30 days to re-authenticate, because that is the physical address of some kind of insanity like that. It's like, look, you know, and I don't even know it's because they're not making a profit. It's just because they're not making enough profit.
No,
probably.
Yeah, it's a money
it's not
thing.
about
the Netflix has reached market saturation. So everybody who's going to get it has it. And, stockholders want to see the value keep going up, or they're going to invest somewhere else. So Netflix has to squeeze the people they've got because they can't count on getting more and more people. So they've got to cook up new ways to increase
but
the number of people using it.
right. But I mean, like when you have markets like Trinidad, where the people are already hanging by a thread because people, I mean, the average income is lower, and it's almost like piracy is the better option for many of them, because if Netflix is removing these services, because people here they would put up together and they'd get a Netflix account, a legit one, and they'd share it, and if that is becoming a problem, well, it's not hard to, it's basically not hard to push them away from it by making it a less. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think they expect to lose people when they do it, but I guess they estimated that the number of new accounts they'll get from it is enough to withstand the loss of people reacting to the change.
Well, one thing I have heard was that they were gonna adjust prices for third world regions a bit. I'm not sure if that was because some of the digital stores actually do that. Like I was on Origin of all things, right? You wouldn't think EA would be doing this, but I was on Origin and I was seeing a cheaper price than than my friend in the US. So I think this is something that Netflix and all these digital stores have to do, because it would be better at least to sell some games or some streaming service in a third world country than to sell none, right? Because $60 here is about $400 here. 60 US is about 400, and that is not. A lot of people locally are not going to spend that kind of money on a game. So sometimes you see the prices actually adjusted to here. So I hope Netflix and these streaming people do something like that. That would make it a little better. And the third world is still a huge amount of people. So I think by having different kind of models for different regions, it would work out for them. I don't know, just a thought.
Yeah. And we have our first commenter, I guess, from the Discord. I mean, we have still 45 minutes left or something, so we still have enough to talk about, really. I mean, I could talk about Kaina, but Kaina needs to wrap up next Wednesday or something, so I'll probably keep that for when that's over. But yeah, for anime, it's for streaming services like Paramount is a streaming service, Disney Plus is a streaming service, and everybody just goes to pirating anyway. I mean, I'm doing that constantly. I don't even have subscriptions to any of them. I mean, if I wanted to go to a certain series that I want to see, then I need to subscribe to Hulu or Netflix or any other. I just have to jump from subscription to subscription to watch any show. So I'm like, why would I do that? Why? So I just use one site for all those shows, or a separate anime site, and I'm good. I can watch anything I want to watch, really. So I don't need to do that.
Well, you can do that if you go on Prime Video and you subscribe inside of Prime to another channel, premium channel like Paramount, Discovery, or something like that. At least you need to pay more, but you have everything on the same platform if you don't want to jump from an app or a site to another all the time.
Yeah, it's difficult sometimes. I mean, for older anime, I really need to get on pirated sites, or else I won't see it. I mean, there's just no site that lets me watch it. Except for retro, for instance, The first thing
Yeah.
you said really puts old anime on the map, but
There are
it's also
super obscure and niche anime and old
Yeah,
that are impossible to find on modern streaming platforms. So either you pirate
I mean,
import the original DVDs or Blu-rays, but of course it's going to be way so expensive, and no one is going to benefit from your purchase apart from, I don't know, the seller, but the industry, the anime industry won't benefit from it. Of course, you get a piece of collection. So
I mean, yeah, that
continue.
that money was made, decades ago, right? Like, I mean, following up on what you're saying, Koma, that money was made decades ago. When it was sold the first time.
Yeah,
it's not going to be made
absolutely.
again reselling it.
Yes, absolutely. We are talking about like anime that are 30 years old, in some cases even older, between 20 to 30 years old.
Yeah, it's only the high-end ones that survive, so like Akira or
if you go on Mandarake or any other Japanese site to import DVDs from Japan, or even local releases, US releases, European releases after so many years, I don't think the revenue is going to be there for the company that licensed those anime. Especially when we talk about Japan and sites where they sell second-hand goods, so it's pointless. All things considering, you are in this case at least justified for pirating. I mean, it's the only way, really. Otherwise, we would try a better option, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost impossible to find anything. It's only the high end, like Akira, Ghost in the Shell, Belladonna Sadness, or other ones that really old ones you can see, or anything that you want, and nothing else beside it. But there's also a lot of OVAs from the early 2000s from the 90s or 80s, that are never getting anywhere because they were just advertisements for manga, like 1 or 2 episodes, or like 6 episodes.
I mean,
or something like that.
Some of the most obscure anime are even on YouTube, fully complete. And
Yeah.
To pirate, you need to go there and watch them. No one cares.
Problem is with that a lot.
Angel's Egg from 1985, Tenshi no Tamago, like that is a really good one, directed by Mamoru Oshii, and it's available on YouTube as we speak, which is absurd, but it is how it is.
Yeah, I mean, it was the same with Angel's Egg that came more on YouTube, and a lot of people got to know for that, for like being kind of real obscure for like 30 years or something at that point. But the problem is with YouTube is that a lot gets for copyright reasons deleted. So I post on some sites, I post like the YouTube links, and then like a month later it's all gone. So it's like really up and grabs for like you need to be at the right time at the right moment to watch it, and something stay on there for years or something, like the bots just ignore it for some reason, or they just haven't detected it yet, so you're just stuck with that. But sometimes you just watch it on YouTube because it's a bit easier, or just can't find a high resolution, or it's just
on archive, Internet Archive, you can't find anything basically if you really
also a bunch, obviously, also the same with movies, but that's also not handy for streaming because that's way too goddamn slow, so it's also pretty irritating if I want to do movie nights. I also do that a lot, but yeah, I mean, a majority I just use 9anime or the other sites if it's not on there, or like for instance, like a bit of torrent, and get and just download the high-end OVAs or the stuff that's been re-released or remastered, or the master has been found and then released, and I can download it from there. Sometimes I do that, but yeah, that's really what I use for watching nowadays. I mean, paying for it. I mean, a few years back with Netflix, for instance, I tried that and didn't. And I did it for a few series, but that's so limited on there. So why would I bother on that? And plus, a lot gets thrown off of there, so it's also kind of pointless. I mean, a few years ago, like Bebop was on there, but nobody knew even that it wasn't there. Then it was thrown off. Then the remake, the live action, came back on, and then the series came back on. So that's the only reason that's back on, even if the series is cancelled by now, which was not the best thing ever, obviously, for obvious reasons, because there's a lot of acting that does not really worked out for that. So yeah, live actions, this doesn't work on anime for the majority of the time. For just a few, like Old Boy or I don't know, a few projects are like decent, but or like really slice of life anime, or they're really grounded to the normal world, and you can get a movie out of that because that works majority of the time. So yeah.
Yeah, that is how it is.
I'm surprised at the stuff that doesn't get struck off of YouTube, but I'm glad for it though. But I think if you find something obscure, you should probably download it. You know, if it's something you can't find elsewhere, because there have been times where I found something and like hours later I've seen it gone. I don't know if my looking at it flagged something or what, because it was something that was up there for years and then coincidentally is gone. You know, I'm not sure, but yeah. Sometimes, yeah, well, with games too, especially sometimes when stuff is tied up in rights, it's impossible to re-release it. Like, I was surprised that actually we released GoldenEye. I thought it would have been like, okay, well, is Rare doing something and Nintendo holding on to something and MGM and the estate of James Bond or whatever. Uh, all these things like fighting, against a re-release, so somehow or the other the stars aligned and they was able to do that. But a lot of games that is like crossovers, like like I don't think we'll ever be able to see a re-release of like X-Men versus Street Fighter, you know, uh, just because of all the characters involved, and now some of them belong to Fox and some belong to Marvel and Capcom, have their own characters. Like all these are reasons why doing things the unofficial way more and more is gonna become the only way to do it. Like even Sega is like a huge company, and even I don't think you could buy what was it? I don't think you could buy Outrun now because of the Ferrari license. You know, to make that game able to be sold again, they'd have to remove all the Ferrari, because they realize that they're looking at two numbers. What is the license cost, and how much money we're going to make from this game? And if they're not going to make enough, they're not going to pay for the license. Same thing with even games with for a while I think they took off Alan Wake, and that is like a huge game because they didn't have the I don't think they had the rights to some of the music in the game or something like that. The rights had lapsed or something, so. And I mean, I'm sure a lot of this is the reason why a lot of this anime is not available, because somebody had a soundtrack on it, and they no longer, like, the rights were probably lapsed, and it's just not worth it.
I mean, yeah, a lot of things can also be lost, like in obscure anime. Even, I mean, some anime I've even found in like the backgrounds of like normal shows, like episodes, or like 60 shows, for instance. 60s animes are lost episodes, are kind of bits and pieces are found in the backgrounds of those shows, or like crossover anime shows being found, or like warehouses or whatnot. I mean, King Lauderdale talks about that stuff all the time, just stuff that's being left somewhere and just found eventually, and not just been lost for like 30, 40 years. Things are just never gonna be streamed again or just shown again because the author doesn't want it, or everybody's dead, or they just want to bury it because it has to do with the Cold War or with the Second World War or anything like that. So yeah, lots of odd stuff like that can be lost, or just unintentionally be lost. Like lots of interviews that are scanned in are just kind of stuck in magazines and nobody bothers to scan them in or doesn't know that they're on there. So yeah, why not do that myself so somebody can translate it or just read it for themselves if it's in their language, or just use Translate or some other site that really works with that, and hoping that works. I mean, not too long ago, I found a Russian blood site that was a big forum that was all about blood and all about how the games were released and different mods and different ideas. So, and it's just on archive.org, and just nobody watches it or nobody tries to look at it. And yeah, with a bit of looking through different links, you can get a lot of stuff. I mean, back in the day, all those sites had like a side map, so you can just go from they had a list of all kinds of sites, and you just can go to all kinds of sites and just go through from site to site to site to site. So can you find a whole network, which was the bigger site, which was that game the most on other sites, and just yeah. That's how you find this stuff. Yeah, the most obscure stuff, really, just to explore and just to go from place to place.
Digging around, basically.
Yeah, digging around. That's what I always do. I just know how to dig around. Lots of people don't know how to do it.
Most people, I think 99% of people, don't ever click on the second page of Google, you know,
Nope.
or even use, you know what? Sometimes you have to use search engines other than Google, you know. I don't know, Yandex, all kind of weird stuff.
Yeah.
No, because everybody policing Google, right? All the people who trying to police the internet probably looking at Google first. You know, they're not going to think that you know, who the hell is using Bing? You know, what is that? You know, I hear a lot of people say they find a lot of stuff on Bing that is you would never find on Google, just because.
Yeah, it's just stuck there because who you ever uses Bing, so it's just kind of stuck there, and nobody ever thought of it. Just like, what's on there? What kind of sites are on there, or like what are the links, or what are pictures or whatnot. I mean, I use Yandex also a lot because it does a better job with images a lot of the time than Google does. I've seen out of experience whenever I want to see something. And usually I find a reference that I want to see, or find another site that has the same image. And so I can go look at other stuff. But yeah, Google is like my first place to go, and then go to a few pages if I'm looking at shit, and just happen to find it and just go on from there. But the longer you're in this, the less you're gonna find, because well, if you found most of it, then you just kind of stuck, I guess. Well, I'm not really stuck at the moment, but I can use maybe Bing more and try to find what's stuck on there. I mean, it's got to be something on there.
Yes. It's amazing how much of stuff is lost. You know, I mean, we always talk about this. I mean, imagine the work that goes into making any kind of work like this, a game or a cartoon or something, and then for the whole thing to just be lost. You know, like it's frightening.
Yeah. So a lot of the like the 50s and 60s just completely lost, or like normal TV shows that were just recorded over because the material was really expensive, so they really had to reuse it. So a lot of those shows and episodes are just done, nothing left of it anymore. Or sometimes people find snippets or like 8 minutes or a few minutes of it, but the rest is just all gone, and it's just like, or just or it's just in somebody's collection, and they just want to hoard it because they know how much is it worth. So they just want to keep it for themselves. And look what we have. We have something really rare, and that's like the top of my collection or something like that. That's often the case.
Yeah, is there a piece of lost media that you guys are always trying to find? Like there's a few things that I always keep an eye out for. Like you know, there's a few old commercials that I'm still trying to find that. You know, I make a few posts on Reddit, but you know, there's like one other guy, and he's also trying to find it. But I mean, at least I know I'm not crazy. Well, I mean, I might still be, but I'm not crazy about that. You know, that somebody else has seen it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, what is your most wanted lost thing then, Mars?
What's my most lost thing? I guess. Well, obviously, Blame. I archive a lot. I mean, like you don't know, obviously already. Yeah. What is my most? I mean, I guess there's a few things. There's like a poster that's only been printed 666 times. This is really rare to get. Or a poster from a German convention from like 2005 or 6 or something. That's a really rare stuff you can find from that author that nobody else already has anymore, or can find anymore, or stuff can anymore. Or like one movie director that made 3 short movies in its beginning and made only 100 tapes of each of these small movies. So there's only so many of these are still there. Like 2 are online, or like 1 is online and 1 is you know, on unlisted, and I still have it, so I can still watch it. And 1 is being digitalized, but the person just won't release it for some goddamn reason. I don't know why. He just, I don't know, copyright, but who just gonna care? Because nobody has seen anything like 30 years since the 90s. So yeah, that's a kind of rare stuff, and the majority is really easy to get because it's just stuck in magazines or on a site or whatnot. So it's really easy to find because nobody cares about it. It's just nobody knows it's even there. It's the same when I was in Italy with Kappa magazine, for instance. I found an interview of Nie in a Kappa magazine.
All right. Yeah. There is stuff like that. Many interviews of mangaka from that time period that are basically only on Kappa magazine.
Yeah. Like you translated.
Yeah, the one shots from Beyond
from the Beyond. Yeah. And we spent months on it. Yeah.
But I'm sure Dustin have some lost media that he always, but probably in the game space. You know, is there anything, you know, that you're always trying to find, Dustin, that just, or something that's never been released that you would like to see?
Not really. I mean, people have been pretty good at archiving that stuff. If there was ever an old NES, SNES game, it's been pretty easy to find. The worst thing for me is music. If I can only remember like a few words, and then you go on Google, and it's impossible to find it, depending on what the words are.
Yeah. You know what? You just had to keep on doing it. You know, one day the algorithm will shift in your favor, and you'll find it. You know,
well, sometimes it's instrumental, and then you're just done. Like you can't say, "Oh, it's the one with the guitar." You're just never gonna hear it again.
Yeah, that's a problem. Yeah.
But I tried humming stuff to Google, but it is not able to. It can't help me. You know, my humming is bad, or maybe it can't understand good. Or one interesting thing there's a lot of lost games game source code, especially in Japan. I think where they would move on from games and never look back. They would never think about re-releasing it, remaking it, that kind of thing. You know.
many games. Are we
and
going to talk again about Panzer Dragoon Saga?
No.
every time
Yeah.
there's never enough time to talk about it. They're just. But I mean, even for Panzer Dragoon is a relatively niche series, but even for stuff like like Resident Evil, that's like a huge series, and even they can't find some of the files that I used to make some of these games. So like they had to use AI upscaling and going in by hand and touching it up because the 3D scenes that were used to make the pre-rendered backgrounds, they no longer exist. All they have is the flattened out background. All they have is the exported picture. It might just be like, a flattened picture file or just a file with a few layers, and that is all they have.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's messed up that well, I'm like a digital pack rat, right? So this kind of stuff is particularly horrifying to me. And how could you delete that? What were you thinking?
Well,
I know
the
Facebook
people
like
making it, it's not like that. They're just like, they finished it and the job's done, and they don't
They
have.
just want to make money.
Yeah.
At the time, it was not popular at all.
And it's not like there was, back when they made Resident Evil, there's not just some server sitting somewhere where they can just drop it. They'd have to back it up on like 80 DVDs or something.
Well, I am sure that there's somebody that took that stuff home that doesn't want to say nothing because maybe they're afraid they get sued or something.
Well, that's how
because I know
the blood source is. That one dude said he had the source code and he wasn't allowed to release it.
Yeah, you see, so just imagine these freaking software companies are their own worst enemy. So now they can never be a source part of it because that guy's afraid to come forward, right?
That's what I heard. I don't know how accurate that is.
You know what? I believe it because it's exactly the kind of thing that happens all the time. Like but at least now maybe there's like an anonymous file sharing thing. He could use, I don't know, NordVPN or something and upload it,
Speaking of which,
anonymously
so that NordVPN.
Oh no.
Yeah, and establish titles and all the other crap that hey, look, I joke, but I will totally shill for them, if any of all you guys listen, wherever you want, I'll shill for it, Yeah, this podcast will shill for anything, I think,
By the way, what's meant by kind of like past releases of Death Wish? Is there a lot of lost content on there, Dustin?
I don't save the old versions. I overwrite them. So I have what I'm working on,
a lot of
and I have like one version back in case I mess a file up. Then I have a backup. Like the original version, I didn't save it because I don't have any nostalgia for it. I just kept making the stuff better if I could. I don't save the old ones.
Yeah.
But that is one thing that I always nervous about. Like I don't do that. I don't do like coding, but like sometimes some of these project files, I have a lot of redundant stuff because sometimes it's like a house of cards. So like if I delete something, if I get rid of something that I think has been overwritten, but then I realize it's not, and then it's like a dependency and all of this stuff, it all comes tumbling down, that is something I always worry with. Like I don't know much about programming, but I've heard that in a lot of huge projects, there's a lot of files that might no longer be needed, but they're afraid to remove it for reasons like that, like, oh, what does that thing do? What does that JPEG do? Well, you know what? I don't know what it does, but it's doing something because when you take it out, the whole thing don't run. So just leave it, That is how I think of some of this stuff, So I always have versions going all the way back, and I mean anybody that doing any kind of project on a computer knows, final 1, or final 2, final 600, that kind of a thing, So I'm the guy that keeps all of that, Yeah, probably not advisable though, but I I am glad that they keep at least one back, in case I don't know, is it possible like I could break something in the newest one and it would be good to have like a fallback?
Yeah. Well, I save stuff on Dropbox nowadays, so it saves multiple versions even while I'm working. So it's not something I really worry about. But I don't know. I only save one version back because I never when I did the updates, the expansion's been out since 2011, but it's not like I've been working on it for a decade. I'd spend like a month fixing it up before the next version would come out. Only the most recent one that I put a lot of time into. The other ones I didn't have to. It's not like I was spending the entire year on it.
Yeah. Now you're really experiencing it, and now you want to get a good finish in the series and to
and put it to bed.
Up to date, kind of.
I think I'm done after this. We'll see.
It's a real shame, obviously, but hey, it's still got to finish. We still got to do the finish line with it.
Well, I did what I originally wanted to do was to have a complete thing. It's
just made it because you wanted.
Yeah, I made the 3 episodes that are there, so it has a beginning, middle, end, and it's a complete project. It's not something that can't be finished because I just keep working on it and working on it and working on it. It's a complete product. Now I'm adding something to it, but as back in 2011 when I first released it, it was done as far as having a 1.0.
Yeah.
I didn't want to release an episode at a time and then just never finish the thing.
Yeah. I see. Okay.
Because if I waited for it to be perfect, it would have never come out. There wouldn't be a 1.0. I just keep playing around with it forever. So.
And are there any Easter eggs that you hidden that nobody has found so far, or is it
no? I am impressed with how thoroughly people scrape those maps. So I don't think there is anything that hasn't been seen. Not in the version that's out available right now. I've been adding stuff.
Yep. No. I'm sure there's that means there's something. That means there's something.
Or something. Gotta be in yet.
Yeah, there's something hidden. Yeah, something hidden.
Not in there.
Like
but
there are places out of bounds that you can get yourself by bomb jumping or something. But if you get there, you'll get stuck, and there's just a message for you. But that's it.
Yeah. Like in the original expansion for Blood, like in 1998 or something that was made. That I forgot right now, but yeah, there's also some places, or like when you with the stone gargoyle, when you jump off the cliff and you see like that's a really big hole. That's also from a movie with Keanu Reeves, a reference to that, and that's kinds of small things,
right? The
Yeah, I love stuff. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, so I was going to say, well, the download comes with a guide that tells you where all the secret stuff is.
Yeah.
Finding the normal secrets isn't something that takes a long time to do if you know where to look. But there is a couple hidden things in there. But the version I'm working on is so far removed from the one that's available. Like watching videos isn't really helpful anymore as far as development goes.
I mean, yeah, I've seen some Twitter updates on different versions that you worked on. Some look really different, and some look like it's kind of the same, but there's just a few different stuff into it. I mean, I know one level when you had to, when you came out of a hole, out of a wall, and then at the left there was just Chernobog just going at it with fireballs, and you have to jump over them. But most didn't even know that you had to jump over them, so you just die instantly.
Yeah, that whole section is completely gone.
Yeah, this is really like. I mean, back in the day, they couldn't even do that. I mean, we have so much power now that you can just change it into its whole different thing than it was originally.
Yeah, I think. Sorry, go ahead, Dustin.
I was gonna say I still test in DOS on some old Mac Mini, so I'm not getting a lot of firepower. So if anything runs poorly on that, then I know to take it back a notch.
Yeah. Just let it work on literally everything, even on there.
Because
upside of that is that, sorry, I'm just saying the upside of that is that you're sure it'll work on almost anybody's computer. Any modern computer would be able to run it.
Yeah, so I test on a very old computer running DOS, because if I do it in Fresh Supply on my laptop, then it'll run well no matter what I do. So I test on a machine that's so old, no one's gonna. I can assume everyone's gonna be able, if I can run it on there, then it'll run well everywhere else.
Yeah, you can run it on any potato basically. I mean, I tried to run Original Blood from a disk on DOS, but I just couldn't figure out how to do it. I had somebody just help me all the way through it, but it just didn't want to work. It's just such a pain in the ass to get it to run on those. I'm like, I got extra games that were on there to work, but otherwise it's just not in the cards.
Yeah, modern games have built-in mechanisms for level of detail, so you can adjust that on the fly. But older game, I can't do that. I can't say, oh, don't make this show up based on hardware. I can only do that like based on difficulty or something like that.
I mean, most games I play now, like the high end, I do on a Steam Deck, and that works really well nowadays. Because I don't really have a gaming PC that can all do that stuff, and it looks a bit more expensive than I wanted it to be. So it works for now. Or like games that I really want to look into, but I don't have the station for it. But Steam does have it. So I can play everything. I even tried Blood on Steam Deck, but it's not the most perfect thing to play on, basically.
It looks really difficult.
Yeah, the difficulty gets way up. The controls are really wonky to get everything working. And I got it working. I got through 1.5 level, but oh boy, it's not ideal to work with. I mean, it's a lot of difficult stuff to work on. But yeah, I just use the computer anyway. I mean, anything else won't really work. Maybe I tried one day with a controller or something, but who knows? I mean, I get a lot of experimenting on that stuff. Now, a lot of people have Steam Deck anyway, so yeah.
So you've been playing with the controller on the Steam Deck. You don't use the TV out.
No, I just connect it via a screen with an adapter that just goes from HDMI to USB-C and just connect it to a bigger screen, and I can play anything or watch anything basically. If I want to use a big screen, it's pretty handy. It's pretty easy to handle. Oh, by the way,
so you
completely forgot. I got my Blame figure from Figurama finally, and the whole thing is finally in the kitty figure. It's like a huge thing. It was a bit of a hassle to get into, but after years I finally got it. What do you think about it? It's really fucking late.
Or was it worth it at least?
Was it worth it at least? I hope.
Oh yeah. Things look awesome, obviously. Except faces, those got downgrade. Isn't that the most hottest thing in the universe? In the pictures, it look way better, qua makeup and whatnot. So, but hey, I mean, I waited for this years, and this thing costed a lot. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. I still have to scan in the instructions to it because those are not online. So, yeah, look out for that. And I got really lucky on an UK art book for $60 on an auction site. So I finally have that. Plus airplane setup. I got it. This is pretty nice. It's probably gonna come in a few weeks. Like all of them are like 300 plus or 200 plus bucks. So I'm pretty happy that I got for like 64 euros or something. So yeah, pretty good buy.
Okay, that's good. I think we're almost up on 2 hours here. I think we just went
Oh
over.
yeah. Okay, that's a wrap then. Well, thank you all for coming and for watching, and hope we see you in the next episode. Goodbye.
Bye bye.
Later.
Goodbye.